Samira did not lose her identity when she left her homeland. She multiplied it. In her city in the Middle East, Samira was a respected high school literature teacher. Her classroom, a vibrant space where poetry was debated and young minds were taught to question with courage. When conflict made that classroom a target, Samira, her husband Kareem, and their 2 young children were granted refugee status through the United Nations and resettled in a mid-size American city in the Midwest. This episode is not about loss, but about translation, how skills, dignity, and purpose can be carried across borders and planted in new soil, often with the helping hands of a welcoming community. It is a story of the US refugee resettlement system at its best, and the quiet, powerful resilience of a woman rebuilding her life not from scratch, but from strength. The journey from fear to safety was bureaucratic, not perilous. There were no smugglers or desert crossings. Instead, there were interviews with UNHCR officials in a secure compound, medical screenings, cultural orientation videos, and a final flight voucher. The International Organization for Migration coordinated their travel. When their plane landed, they were met by a caseworker from a local resettlement agency, a woman named Beth who held a sign with their names and a smile that reached her eyes. "Welcome home," Beth said in carefully practiced Arabic. That first act of intentional welcome set the tone. The agency had secured a modest, clean apartment for them. It was empty but for basic furniture donated by a local church, a stocked kitchen courtesy of a volunteer team, and a children's toy basket assembled by a Girl Scout troop. This tangible kindness was their first lesson in America. Support is a community practice. The resettlement process is a structured 90-day program, but integration takes years. Beth helped them apply for social security cards, enroll in English classes, and register the children for school. Samira's teaching credentials, however, were not automatically recognized. The path to recertification was long, requiring additional coursework and exams in English, a daunting prospect, while also learning to navigate grocery stores, public transit, and a new climate. Karim, an accountant, faced similar hurdles. To pay rent, Samira took the first job she could find, night cleaner at a large office complex. From 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., she vacuumed carpets, wiped glass desks, and emptied trash bins. Some might see a fall from grace. Samira saw a stable paycheck, health insurance for her family, and the quiet dignity of honest work. She wore her own clothes under the standard issue uniform, and in her breaks, she would read poetry on her phone, Arabic verses, then English translations. It was during these night shifts that Samira discovered her second classroom. The office complex housed a non-profit that provided after-school tutoring. One evening, the director, Miss Davis, was working late, found Samira gently correcting the grammar on a fundraising letter left on a desk. A conversation began. Miss Davis learned of Samira's past. A week later, Samira was offered a part-time afternoon position as a tutor. It was not a teaching license, but it was a student-facing role. Samira began working with immigrant and refugee children, helping them with English and math. Her unique understanding of their experience, the linguistic frustration, the cultural dislocation made her profoundly effective. She didn't just teach subjects, she built bridges of confidence. This pivot from cleaner to tutor was facilitated by the very system designed to help refugees. Her caseworker, Beth, connected Samira with a state program that offered scholarships for career advancement for refugees. Samira enrolled in night classes to fulfill the requirements for a teaching license. Her professors and classmates became another layer of her support network, offering study help, used textbooks, and encouragement. Meanwhile, Karim passed his accounting exams and found a job with a small firm that valued his international experience. Their children thrived in school, their English quickly becoming fluent, their lives a blend of soccer practice, homework, and Arabic lessons at the local community centre. The family's transition was not without strain. The pressure of shift work, study, and parenting in a new culture tested Samira and Karim's marriage. There were tense silences, moments of overwhelming fatigue, and disagreements about how much to assimilate. This is a common, often unspoken part of the refugee experience. The external crisis may be over, but the internal recalibration is arduous. Instead of breaking them, this period forced a recalibration. They sought counselling through a program offered by their resettlement agency, learning to communicate their stresses in a healthy way. Their marriage, forged in their homeland, was tempered in America, different but strong. After 3 years of night classes and tutoring, Samira passed her final certification exam. She was hired as a full-time English language learner specialist at the same public middle school her children attended. On her first day, standing before a classroom of young faces from a dozen different countries, Samira felt a profound sense of homecoming. She was not the same teacher she had been. She was more. She now taught with the empathy forged by her own journey, with methodologies that blended her native pedagogical wisdom with American best practices. She didn't just have a classroom again, she had a platform. Samira's story is one of the refugee resettlement system working as intended. It is a pathway defined by legal vetting, structured support, and community integration. The kindness was systemic and personal. From the caseworker who met them at the airport, to the volunteers who furnished their apartment, to the professor who offered extra office hours, to the school principal who valued her unique skills, the challenges were real but surmountable. Bureaucratic recalibration, linguistic barriers, professional restarting. The outcome is one of clear, positive gain. Samira regained her profession at a higher level of impact. Her family is stable, financially secure, and deeply woven into the civic fabric of their town. They are citizens now, voting in every election, volunteering at the library, and celebrating both American holidays and the festivals of their homeland. The lesson of Samira's door is about capacity, not deficit. The refugee system is not about saving victims. It's about receiving capable human beings and providing the structured support for them to contribute. For the audience, it demystifies the refugee process, showing it as a legal, orderly, and ultimately successful pathway for many. It highlights the critical role of local resettlement agencies and community volunteers. It teaches that professional identity can be transferred, not lost, with persistence and the right help. And most importantly, it illustrates that for every story of hardship, there is a story of graceful rebuilding, where the American promise of refuge translates into mutual growth, and where a teacher finds that her most important lesson was in learning how to rebuild her own classroom with a community holding the walls steady as she raised them.